Hello everybody, Leighton here, and first off I'd like to start by apologizing for my appearance and my voice. If I don't look or sound the healthiest, it's because I'm not. I'm still pretty gosh darn sick, but since this is the first video of like this brand new series that I'm starting on my channel, I didn't want to put it up late or anything. I wanted to get it up on time. Gracie wanted to help me get it up on time. I'm here, I'm sick, but I'm doing this video because, gosh darn it, I'm not about to let my brand new year start off with me not getting a video up on time. That's just not gonna happen. That's not how this works. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you enjoyed 31 Days of NaNoWriMo Prep, you're gonna love this series because it's basically everything that I wasn't able to fit into that 1 month. It's all of the topics that I wanted to talk about that I never got around to. So we're in for a treat if you enjoyed that month. And I'd also like to point out that I'm totally open to having topics suggested to me, so you can drop a comment below, or you can send me a tweet or an ask on Tumblr to give me suggestions for things that you'd like me to talk about, because I can only come up with so many things before my creative well runs dry. So if you have anything that you really just need to know about writing, ask me, because I may know that thing. Also, before we hop into the meat of this video, I wanted to add really quickly that if you're more of a visual learner than an auditory one, you learn better by reading information, then you can hop on over to my blog, readwritelovefiction.com, where I have a corresponding blog post to this video, so you can get all of the same information, but it's written down. You can go over there. It's linked in the description below if you would like. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about today. I had a list a mile long of possible topics, but I really wanted to start this series off right. But then I got to thinking, we just started a new year, so why not talk about beginnings? Specifically, prologues. And so here we are. For those of you who don't know, a prologue acts as an introduction to a novel, usually setting up the events that take place in chapters 1 and beyond. For example, A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin kicks off with a prologue in which 3 characters who we don't really see after the prologue face off against these creatures called the Others, which then act as a looming threat over the rest of the novel. Because we know from the very beginning that the Others are very real and very dangerous, it creates tension for us as readers every time a character disregards them as a myth. This is an example of a prologue being used effectively. Another example of an effective prologue is at the beginning of Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. And know that I say this begrudgingly. In this instance, the prologue is a flash forward that immediately sucks the reader into the story by inserting them into a bit of action. Since the story starts out somewhat slow, this prologue gives the reader a reason to keep reading until the story really gets going. Though I'd like to point out that you really shouldn't lean too heavily on a prologue to keep your reader interested in your story. The promise of something exciting happening can only keep them going for so long before they decide it isn't worth the wait. So what would make an ineffective prologue? Well, the worst prologues are the ones whose only purpose is to info dump a lot of backstory and world building onto your reader all at once. A prologue should never read like a history textbook, because that is the one surefire way to get a reader to put your book down and never pick it back up again. Remember, a prologue is basically the first chapter of your novel, even though it isn't titled Chapter 1. It sets the tone of your novel and tells the reader what to expect out of your writing. So if you drone on and on for 4 pages about the magic system, no matter how interesting it may be, the reader will just assume that the rest of your novel will read like that, even if it doesn't. So don't think a prologue is your get out of jail free card, where you can have your cake and eat it too by info dumping and having an action-packed first chapter. It does not work like that. Also, keep in mind that a lot of people simply skip over prologues. Why? Because they're animals, but that's not the point. The point is that you can't have any incredibly important information in your prologue. If there's something your reader will absolutely need to know later in the book, you have to put it into the actual meat of your story. I know it sucks, but there's nothing really to be done about it. This is why J.K. Rowling's first chapters in the Harry Potter series always seem to read like prologues. because they basically are. But she was smart, because instead of labeling them as prologues and having people miss pertinent information, she just bit the bullet and titled them Chapter 1. Prologues can definitely be a useful storytelling tool, but at the end of the day, you should probably ask yourself, do I really need a prologue? Sometimes, like in the Game of Thrones example that I gave earlier, it can add an extra layer to the story that absolutely makes having a prologue worth it. Other times though, it may just slow down the overall flow of your novel and keep you from starting in the action that would actually really hook the reader. If you think your novel would benefit from a prologue, but you aren't really sure, go ahead and write it. Then, if it feels like it drags your story down, you know that you should probably get rid of it. I'd also like to mention that a prologue should never be too long. You shouldn't be writing a prequel to your novel in the prologue. If you find yourself doing that, write an actual prequel. Prologues should be relatively short, sweet, and to the point in order to keep your story moving and keep the reader invested. And of course, it should always have a purpose, like I mentioned earlier. It should create tension in some way, either by 1. Showing the reader an event that will happen later in the novel, a la Twilight. 2. Introducing a plot element that then looms over the rest of the story, like in Game of Thrones. Or 3. Providing a better understanding of the protagonist's background, like in the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's or Philosopher's Stone, if J.K. Rowling had actually labeled it a prologue instead of chapter 1. A prologue can also occur in the point of view of a character that is not the protagonist or regular narrator of the novel, in order to give the reader information that the protagonist or regular narrator would have no way of knowing otherwise. This could be in first or third person point of view, and it doesn't have to match the point of view that the rest of your novel is told in. Plus, a prologue can take place at any point in time, be it the past, future, or anywhere in between. So long as there's a purpose for it taking place at that point in time, anything goes. Prologues can be great tools, or they can seriously hinder your novel. When deciding whether to use one or not, make sure you really consider what is best for your book. And don't just title your prologue Chapter 1 and think you can get away with it like J.K. Rowling did. No matter what you call it, a prologue is a prologue, and you need to make sure that said prologue really belongs in your novel. So hopefully this video gives you a better idea of whether or not you should include a prologue in your work in progress. And let me know if you're the kind of person who always reads a prologue or always skips a prologue. I'm very curious. And thank you guys so much for watching this very first installment in the new Let's Talk About Writing series. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, and bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video, which is every Saturday and on the first and third Wednesday of the month. Also, make sure to check out all of my social medias. I have Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram, which are linked in the description below. I also have a personal blog, readwritelovefiction.com, where not only do I post the corresponding blog posts to these videos, but I also post blogs about my writing adventures. I talk about things I'm going through with my writing, good, bad, ugly. I talk through things, so if that interests you at all, go over there and check that out. Also, make sure to check out my official author website, LeightonJWilliams.com, which is the first place I'm going to be posting any new information or big reveals or releases or anything about my series, The Caspian Chronicles. I'm going to start querying this month, so if I get an agent and if I get a publishing deal, character reveals, etc., all of that will be posted there before I post it anywhere else. So, little incentive to go check it out. And finally, I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!